slingshots and pointed sticks, it's going to take you a while, okay? But if you have firearms and weapons to do that with, you're much more efficient. And if you take those things away, it's very hard for the people to rise up and overthrow that government, a tyrannical government, to say, okay, tyranny. Now, lots of groups have used that phrase to try to overthrow the government, and they haven't gotten too far because the crushing weight of the federal government and its governments in general will put you down quickly. All right, but these are great quotes, and in this book, I'll just pass it around and take a look at it. They're all highlighted in there. There's tons of quotes that our founding fathers talked about how important it was for everybody to be armed. And when I go back to this federalist, anti-federalist thing, Federalists wanted a strong national government. The anti-federalists wanted strong state governments, and they were really butted heads on that. But they all agreed that everybody needed to have weapons and firearms so that they're armed, so that an armed population could defend themselves against a tyrannical government. And that's one of the issues today that is really causing consternation among gun rights activists and even the government looking at those people and saying, "Oh, these people are scary," and we're looking at the government, we're saying, "Ooh, they're scary," and it's kind of interesting right now. All right, now incorporation by the 14th Amendment. Now, this is a topic that gets a little sticky. Okay, before I get there, I want to just, if you watched the debate last night, when they talked about AK-47s. Now, I own a semi-automatic AK-47. I own a bunch of them. I have owned a bunch over the years, okay? One pull of the trigger gets you one bullet, okay? If you have the happy switch on it, which is fully automatic, when you pull the trigger, the gun fires until it's empty. Now, last night, President Obama, who is a constitutional scholar who teaches this stuff apparently, said, "We have a great tradition of hunting in America, and I support the Second Amendment." And at that point, thank God I was in the other room, because if I had something to throw at the TV, which I paid a lot of money for, I probably would have broken my TV. And it was a good thing I was out in the other room, because when Romney spoke, he said something else equally as stupid, which I'll get to in a second. Now, the Second Amendment is not about hunting ducks. Yes,
actually, I saw that debate, and I was pleasantly surprised by Obama, who actually said we have a great tradition of hunting, but he said also in that same sentence that it is for self-defense too. So I was very proud of him for saying that, even though he doesn't actually follow through with it. I just
okay, but he's saying that just because he has to appease.
Well, most of the time they don't even say it.
Well, but he is such in a bind right now that he's got to say stuff that's going to. Those were undecided voters in there last night. And I put a post on Facebook last night that said, "I can't believe there are still undecided voters. They must be all in that one room. How can you be undecided? I don't get it." Okay. Anyway, point taken. But there was a politician around here one time. My daughter was giving a demonstration speech at the 4-H fair on how to reload shotgun shells. Okay. I love my daughter.
Gabby?
No, Claudia. Okay, Gabby wouldn't touch it. And I also had Claudia hold up my AK-47 one time and yell Wolverine. I took a picture of it. She goes, "Why am I saying that?" I said, "Honey, it's for me. Just please do it." Okay. In fact, the Red Dawn was on the military channel the other day, and I had her watch that part. She's like, "That's why I did that?" But
there's a remake coming out.
Yes, there is.
With the North Koreans.
Yeah, it was politically correctly changed from Chinese and North Koreans.
It was supposed to be released in 2009. That's how long ago.
Yep, I can't wait for it to come out. Thanksgiving, I believe.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So, anyway, politician walks up. She's reloading the shotgun shells, doing her demonstration speech. "Yeah, we move it over here and we put the wad, the shot, and powder in, we crimp it, and then the final crimp." And he goes, "Young lady, I support the Second Amendment. I support your right to duck hunt." And I'm sitting there with him. I'm not keep my mouth shut. Keep my mouth shut. Keep my mouth shut. Okay. And he walked away. Thank goodness he walked away. Folks, it's kind of scary that politicians don't know what the Second Amendment's about, or if they do know about it, they don't want us to know what it's about. Okay? Duck hunting, target shooting, all that stuff is icing on the cake to the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is to keep our freedom from a tyrannical government. And that should scare the heck out of the politicians, hopefully. And let's say it does scare the heck out of the politicians. They don't really want us to know that the Second Amendment means what the Second Amendment means, because that threatens them. Now, let's say a politician walks up and he's just the guy that says, "Yeah, the Second Amendment is about duck hunting," and he just doesn't know any better. That's sad. So let's say this politician walks up and says, yep, Second Amendment's about duck hunting. And he knows full well that the Second Amendment's about our right to defend ourselves against the tyrannical government. That's equally as scary, don't you think? Maybe even more. Maybe even more. I feel sad for the guy that just thinks it's about duck hunting. And it's so hard to get hunters mobilized about the Second Amendment because they're like, well, as long as it protects my shotgun to go duck hunting or deer hunting, I'm good. Okay, sir, it's more than that. It's more than that. Okay? And, you know, that's just education. We'll talk about that later. Okay, anybody disagree with anything I've said so far? Please, I hope you, if you have to say it, we're good. Okay, no problem. I have a thick skin, thick skin. All right, so that's my rant about politicians. Now, last night, Romney made an equally big gaffe where he said that Americans cannot own fully automatic weapons. That is completely untrue. All you have to do is go home and get on YouTube and type in Knob Creek Gun Range. And you will find, it's in Kentucky. I stumbled upon it by accident one time, and it was the coolest place I've ever been. Half tracks with quad 50s in the back, and people with MG 42s and 50 cal just blasting away. And my wife's like, "Oh my God, what is this place?" I'm like, "I don't know, but we're going in." Okay? And it's a full auto fire place. It's a great gun range. And now the people that are there that own these fully automatic weapons, they're not the guy that robbed the bank last week, because you have to go through 6 months of background checks or more, fingerprints to the federal government, tax stamp on the gun, all sorts of different paperwork you have to go through to get your gun. Yes, sir.
I assume you're going to talk about the 86 NFA Act?
Not really. I know that the guns have to be pre-86, the firearms.
Receivers specifically.
Right. And the police can have the modern, can have the newly manufactured. Yes, but you're correct. You have to have the pre-86 firearms to have a fully automatic weapon. So that's also which makes it very costly, because there are only so many of them. Now, my retirement goal is when I move to Texas and go off the grid and don't have to pay state income taxes, I'm going to have a fully automatic Browning MC-50 cal. That's my goal. It's going to be about $25,000. But at that point, I'm going to be on my 500-acre range, and I'll be able to play it all I want. Now, it's expensive. It's about $5 a round to shoot that thing. So if you're shooting a 100-round belt, you can add up the money right there. It's going to be expensive. But think about it. We live in such a great country that we have the freedom to have that kind of a weapon. Now, I'm okay with somebody having an M1 tank as long as they don't rob a bank with it or kill somebody. Look at that freedom. Look at the freedom and responsibility. The First Amendment, with that freedom of expression, comes with responsibility. This is a stupid thing in this country, and it's covered, okay? There's a great quote. It's attributed to Voltaire, but there's some question about whether he really said it or not. I disagree with everything that you say, but I defend to the death your right to say it. That's the First Amendment. That's great stuff, okay? The Second Amendment, we have the right to keep and bear arms and shall not be infringed. So if you're not going to break the law, if you can afford it and can buy that M1 tank and you have enough room to shoot that thing, good for you. But a lot of people are like, what's the point of having that? Why do you need a fully automatic weapon? Why not? If I'm not going to kill anybody with it or break the law or rob a bank, what's it matter to you? It's freedom. And I'm responsible gun owner. Why can't I have that? That's a really extreme position that some people would say that I'm taking right now. Well, why don't you just have your little Ruger 10-22 in your backyard and pop some cans with it? Like, well, yeah, I can do that too. But if I really want to have some fun, I can hop behind my 50 cal machine gun and really have some fun. Well, what's the sporting purpose of that? I don't know. Have fun. Okay? It's my right as an American, the freedom of this country to have it. So what's the big deal? Okay? All right. Off the soapbox now. Incorporation by the 14th Amendment. All right. Two big cases, very recent cases. All right. The first one was DC versus Heller. Now, I hope you can read that. DC versus Heller was a case obviously in DC, which had very restrictive, which still does, has very restrictive gun rights. It was a 5-4 decision, and it was, the DC appealed it, and it went all the way up to the Supreme Court. 5-4 decision saying that the individual right to have a firearm is an individual right. The Second Amendment says what the Second Amendment says, is what the Supreme Court ruled. But it was a 5-4 decision. That's pretty close. That's daggone scary when you think about it, especially with the makeup of the Supreme Court right now. And if we get a second Obama term, chances are maybe some of those conservative justices, hopefully they'll live along and stay on the court. But if they pop off the court, a Obama administration with a Obama or a Democrat-controlled Senate, he's going to get his picks. Yes, sir.
This is a good time to just interject. Antonin Scalia can be quoted as saying, a lot of people misunderstand that the Supreme Court is the final word on the Constitution. It is not. The people are.
That's correct. That is correct. But most of the people don't know that. So most of the people who are busy watching Wipeout and The Biggest Loser and Jersey Shore, they don't want to watch that anymore. But all these other, it's sports. Is there a baseball game on tonight? See,
Yeah.
Okay, well, what's important?
Sorry.
Gun rights or
Sorry.
sports? Okay? You can always DVR the sports, but this is important. Anyway, DC versus Heller, 5-4 decision. But here's the problem.
Do this for me again. Thanks.
Remember when I went back and told you that the Bill of Rights only applies to when the federal government comes after you on your rights? Okay? DC is not a state, is it? So here's the issue. The Second Amendment was not incorporated down to the states yet, the protection of the Second Amendment. So it's going to take a case from a state. And this is our next case, which is McDonald versus Chicago. Once again, 5-4 decision in favor of the Second Amendment. 5-4 decision. I can't imagine if it had gone 5-4 the other way, where the justices said the Second Amendment does not support an individual's right to keep and bear arms. How many millions of guns do you think are out in the United States right now? What's the government going to do? Take them back? Oh, you have to come and turn in all your guns. The Supreme Court just said you don't have the right to keep and bear arms. It's no longer an individual right, it's a collective right. Turn them in, guys. Gee, all of my guns were lost in a boating accident. Or gosh, somebody just saws on all my gun cases and I've been robbed. Okay, I'm not advocating that you file a false police report at all, okay? I'm just saying that there are going to be a lot of crime victims out there that have had their guns stolen. People aren't going to turn their guns in. They're not going to do it. It's going to be a problem. Even the government sells guns to people. Did you know that?
U.S. is the largest supplier of arms.
Oh, I'm talking just to you and me. Civilian marshalship program, chartered by the Congress. Okay, it's down in Anniston, Alabama, right on a military base. They sell M1 Garands and M1 carbines. They used to sell 30-06 bolt-action rifles to. They still sell the Garands. Okay, I buy 2 or 3 a year, and that's basically coming from the government. If that case had gone the other way, would they have had to stop selling guns to the people? I don't know. It's an interesting thing to think about. It's scary too, when you think about it. So that's incorporation, where the rights, the protections of the Bill of Rights are now incorporated down to the states. It's a good thing they're incorporated down to Maryland, because we don't have any protection in our state constitution for the individual right to keep and bear arms. Just think, 10 years ago, if we had some nut job politician that wanted to ban guns in Maryland, there wouldn't be much we could do about it, because there's no protection in our state constitution. And the Second Amendment wasn't incorporated down to the states yet. We could have fought it, and maybe a test case from Maryland could have gone to the Supreme Court, which would have incorporated the rights down to the states. That would have been a scary thing to put us in, but that's where we would have been. It's weird. So, all right. Now, there you go. Both were 5-4 votes, so elections do matter. Now, we've been lucky with the last 2 people that dropped off the Supreme Court. They were liberals, and President Obama replaced them with liberals. So they're really not a big deal on the Supreme Court. So that has not been really a negative thing yet. All right. Now, let's talk about this, because this is a big deal. The Colorado movie shooting this summer, the movie theater shooting. All right, the pro-gun side. If the theater had allowed lawful concealed carry, which was allowed in Aurora, Colorado, it could have been stopped, or at least there would have been no victim disarmament. I don't know how many people might not have had a gun in the lawfully carried a gun in the theater, but maybe they could have gotten a shot off at this guy and just tried to stop him. Okay? But we'll never know because the theater did not allow concealed weapons permit holders to bring their guns into the theater. They banned guns in there. So basically, it was a soft target. A soft target. Because the criminal probably knew that, hey, nobody can have a gun in here, I'm going to be okay. Because usually people who have concealed weapons permits are law-abiding citizens, okay, and they obey the law. So they're not going to risk losing their concealed weapons permit by breaking the law, by taking a gun in there. That's the pro-gun side. At least we could have had a shot at this guy and tried to stop him. I think there are 34 states that have concealed carry, and in those 34 states, the crime rates dropped by about 20%. John Lott did a book called More Guns, Less Crime, where he documented this, and he is a statistician. He wasn't a gun rights guy. He just kind of stumbled upon this stuff. It's like, wow, this is amazing data that I'm coming up with here. I can't believe it. Okay, now the anti-gun side. We need more gun laws to stop this senseless act. Well, I think there's about 20,000 gun laws on the books right now. A gun law is written on a piece of paper. Unless that piece of paper is Kevlar and a stop bullet, not going to do much, is it? Stop, sir, I have a gun law. Oh, really? Bang, 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 bang. You know, this isn't going to stop anything. I remember my wife and I were sitting watching TV one night, and I said, Barbara, what law is going to stop me from getting up right now and coming over there and killing you? And she looks at me, she goes, well, you're not going to do it, are you? I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. I said, but what law is going to stop me? Am I going to get a paper cut and bleed to death? I mean, seriously? I mean, this gun laws are only like a locked door keeps an honest person honest. The same way a law keeps honest people honest. I'm sure all of us are law-abiding citizens that obey the law because we fear being put in jail. And criminals don't care about gun laws. That guy in Colorado, I can't think of how many gun laws he broke that night. What he did. Okay? It's absolutely insane. So we need more gun laws to stop this senseless act. Restrict high-capacity magazines. So we can have a 20-rounder in Maryland, but we can't have a 30-rounder. We can't buy one, at least, or have it transferred to us. Now, if we go across state lines and buy it and bring it home, different story. Okay? We need to ban large purchases of ammunition. And when they went and raided this guy's house, he had all kinds of stuff in his house. Okay? Bombs, large, quantities of ammunition, and we need to ban assault weapons. Now, I don't know about you, but banning large purchases of ammunition. You've been to the range with me. How much ammo did I shoot that day?
Quite a bit.
Okay.
It's easy to drop 500 rounds.
Oh, my son can do 500 rounds in a Saturday afternoon with his .22. Easy. Okay? And that's just him shooting. Me, I could probably burn another 500 to 1,000 in a Saturday afternoon. There's 1,500 rounds right there. And that's just a normal Saturday afternoon for me. Now, am I the average shooter? No. But I know a lot of people like me that do shoot that much. And they're constantly buying ammunition. I think in California you can no longer mail order in large quantities of ammunition like from Cabela's. I don't think you can mail it into like a case lot. I think it's restricted now. DC, I don't think you can do it either. I don't think you can have large quantities shipped into DC. Whenever I look at my catalog, when it says restrictions, cannot be shipped to DC or California or all these Massachusetts, which cracks me up because where did our American Revolution begin?
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts, probably one of the most restrictive states in the country right now. The highest tax, the most gun laws, and this is where our revolution started. Unbelievable, but there it is. And ban assault weapons. Now, if you watched the debate last night, you put up a great post on Facebook. You said there were two guys up on the podium last night. Only one of them had passed an assault weapons ban. Who was that? Romney, up in Massachusetts. Massachusetts, unbelievable. Okay. Now, in the same 5 minutes that we were listening to them talk last night, what did President Obama say we need to bring back? Assault weapons ban. Now, the assault weapons ban was an absolute joke because there were 5 features on a gun that made it so-called evil. A flash suppressor, a collapsible stock, a pistol grip, able to accept a high-capacity magazine, and a bayonet load. None of which have anything to do with the functioning of the gun or the rifle. Okay, it's all cosmetic stuff.
Black bean guns.
What did the gun industry do? Made straight stocks. They sent you a 5-round magazine, or they made it. They squareized the stocks with no pistol grip. They took the flash suppressor off, and they took the bayonet lug off. And now it's what's called a post-ban gun. It's the same gun, it's just all the little evil features were taken off of it. Okay? If you had a, and this, I'm getting very technical here, but if you had a Mini 14 with a pistol grip on it, and a flash suppressor and a bayonet lug, that would be an assault weapon. But if you had the regular civilian version, it only had one evil feature, and that was that it would accept a high-capacity magazine, and you had to have 2 of the 5 for it to be considered an assault weapon. Now, does any of this make any sense at all? No, it's absolutely ridiculous. And if you had, here it gets even worse, in Maryland, if you had a Colt H-bar, which is a heavy barrel rifle, that wasn't a regulated weapon. But if you had a rifle with a thin barrel on it, that was a regulated weapon. Does it make any sense? No. And that's why gun rights people are scratching their heads like, okay, this doesn't make any sense. But it feels good to pass an assault weapons ban, doesn't it? Oh, now we'll solve crime. And in the 10 years that we had the assault weapons ban, because it was passed in '94, sunsetted in 2004, it cost Bill Clinton the House of Representatives, and he was the first one to admit that. He said that I lost the House of Representatives over the assault weapons ban. Okay? If President Obama wants to pass another assault weapons ban, he could potentially lose the Senate over it because we already have the House. And well, hopefully that the House would never let the assault weapons ban through. That has to be stopped there first, hopefully. Okay. Now, to be fair, when the assault weapons ban was going to sunset, President Bush said that if the assault weapons ban crosses my desk, I'll sign it. Now, he knew full well it wouldn't because it would have to go through the Republican House. But he said that to appease the anti-gunners. And right there, that did it for me. I said, yep, that's it. I'm done with you. Because for you to even say that means you've compromised a core value that I believe in. Now, he knew full well that it wouldn't go through. Okay? But he had to say it to try to. Now, is the left or the anti-gun rights people, are they going to be happy with him saying that? No, they hate him no matter what. It doesn't matter. But he had to say it to try to bring a few undecided voters over to his side. Maybe, I don't know. Okay, so that's where we are with that. All right. Now let's get into Fast and Furious. Wow, what a movie! Did everybody see the Fast and Furious movies?
Mm-hmm.
3 or 4 of them. Tokyo Drift, and I don't know where the other ones were. They're all stupid, pretty much. But you know, if you're into fast cars and scantily clad women, it was a great movie to watch. Okay. Fast and Furious, also known as Project Gun Runner and Wide Receiver, back in previous administrations.
Gun Walker, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah. Okay. But this is the latest iteration of it. All right. Oh, sorry, that last slide was what the Justice Department wants you to think. Who's that guy with the guns pulling out of the trunk?
Eric.
Eric Holder. Okay? Now, this whole... You like that picture? It took me a while to find it. The whole... It's not... unfortunately, it's not a laughing matter. Because we lost 2, one ICE agent and 1 Border Patrol agent because of this. About 2,000 guns were allowed to walk. Okay, basically, you had ATF agents inside of gun stores, undercover, and you had bad guys walking in, and they were buying guns, and the gun store owners were like, these are felons. I can't legally sell these to these guys. Like, it's okay, don't worry, we're going to track them. We're going to track the guns. We'll track them back to the bad guys, and we'll arrest them. And there were about 2,000 guns in question. Well, they lost track of them. They ended up going across the border, and the other thing was a straw purchase where a person that could legally buy a gun came in, would buy the gun, walk out in the parking lot and say, here you go, Mr. Gangbanger, here's your gun, have fun with it. And they take it across the border. Now, the carnage on the Mexican side, they don't even have figures for it, but it's probably 400, 500, 600 people have been killed because of these Fast and Furious guns. Our agents got killed, and that's when people started to pay attention to it. Oh my gosh, we lost Brian Terry, and we lost this other guy, I think his name is Zapata, was the ICE agent, I believe is his name. He doesn't get much publicity in this, it's all Brian Terry, but 2 guys were killed on our border because of Fast and Furious guns. Now, the Justice Department and the Obama administration circled the wagons on this deal. Okay, they did not want any of this to get out. Chairman Issa started doing hearings on this, calling him in. He had all kinds of information because he had whistleblowers, there were wiretaps, there was all sorts of things that Chairman Issa had to try to get to the bottom of this. But every time he asked for documents, he got stonewalled on this. So finally, he had to put Attorney General. He had to say, look, remember the weekend where they had to come up with the deal to turn the documents over and they couldn't get it, so finally they found him in both civil and criminal contempt of Congress for not producing the documents. Now, that went absolutely nowhere, and I believe they're still trying to sue the Justice Department over this, but the Justice Department, I just read this on the internet the other day, they're trying to have a lawsuit thrown out saying it's an issue that the legislative branch and the executive branch have to work out. It's not a case for the judicial branch to deal with. That may be true. I don't know. I'm not that into that. But the problem is, we don't know what happened. There are some excellent reporters, which I'm going to tell you about in a second, who do know what's going on with it. Okay? Now, here's what happened, basically. Guns were allowed to walk across the border. We were going to try to do a sting operation and find out where these guns went. But the guns, once they got across the border, we lost complete control of them. The Mexican government didn't even know what we were doing. They had no idea we were doing this program. Okay? It was a big, big problem. And they've lost track of about 1,400 of these guns are gone. They're all over the place. We don't know where they are. They're going to turn up eventually in crimes. There's no doubt about that. Okay? Now, have you heard about the Univision report? These are the guys that grilled Obama a couple weeks ago on an interview. They tore him up. Okay? But they came out with a very devastating report on the Fast and Furious. They found that 54 guns even went outside of Mexico into Central and South America, and Puerto Rico, and Panama. They went all over the place. And no one had known this before. And the mainstream media, they spiked this story. They didn't want that getting out. Why?
Doesn't serve their purposes.
Because it hurts their guy. Okay, they don't want that getting out. So the report got spiked, but they can't spike these stories anymore, because if you're a person that's really up on issues, you're going to go out and you're going to find the information on your own. I'm going to give you a bunch of links here on how to do that. Okay? So now here's what you can do. Become educated on both sides of the issue. I talked about that at the beginning. Find out the anti-gun side, okay, and you should know the pro-gun side. Understand both sides of the issue. It makes you a much more well-rounded person. And when you go to try to talk to somebody that may be on the other side, you know their issue, you know where they're going to come from, so you're ready to counter what they're going to say. Okay? So talk to people who are gun rights proponents. Me, Norman, probably more than half the people in here. Okay? Talk to people that are in the middle of the issue. You got a lot of people that are kind of like, yeah, I got a shotgun in the closet, and we hunt a couple times a year, and might go out to the ski club and shoot a round or two. Not a big deal for me. Okay, great. But you have a gun, that's good. Okay? Talk to people that are opponents of gun rights. I know it's sometimes hard to do. You just feel like beating your head against the wall sometimes, but see what they have to say. Kill them with kindness. That just tears them up even worse. Because they expect you to be some knuckle-dragging Neanderthal, like, oh my God, you're one of those gun guys, I love going up and talking to people that are anti-gun. I just love it, because it's so much fun. Okay? Hold the media accountable for their coverage. I write letters to the Star Democrat whenever they put a stupid anti-gun editorial in there. I did one this July. There was an article that had come out about Fast and Furious that was in some mainstream magazine that was completely full of errors, and it had already been debunked by 2 or 3 other people. And I said, Star Democrat, you either, number one, don't fact check your editorials before you put them into the paper, because they buy them from other sources and then just run them. I said, you either just didn't fact check it, or you really don't care that your facts aren't right, and you just ran with it because you're anti-gun. And I couldn't believe it, but they printed my letter to the editor. I was shocked. I play lacrosse on Monday nights down in Cambridge, Old Man League, and I left early one night, and my buddy said, oh, what are you going to do, go home and write another letter to the editor? I'm like, shut up. I was like, no, I'm tired. Vote and let your representatives and senators know how you feel on the issue. Now, talking to Senators Cardin and McCullough. I always forget Cardin because he just doesn't do anything. I remember Sarbanes, he gave way to Panama Canal, but Cardin...
Senator Stealth.
Okay, but do you really think Mikulski and Cardin are going to care what I think about gun rights? No, absolutely not. A couple years ago, I got this poll from the NRA. And then all these questions on there. Do you want the evil politicians to take your gun rights away? And check yes or no. I'm like, well, no, yes. And for $25, Mr. Biddle, we'll score you this and we'll send it to your representatives. I'm like, well, that would be a total waste of time. I know you're trying to make money, and I'll send you the 25 bucks. Okay, don't bother wasting the stamp to send it to Mikulski because she hates guns. You don't need to send it to Andy Harris because he's probably on our side for the guns. Wayne Gilchrist was my high school history teacher who voted for the assault weapons ban, and I saw him up in Roses in Chestertown after he did it and ripped him up one side and down the other. I said, Mr. Gilchrist, you taught me about Lexington and Concord when I was in high school. What are you doing? The Second Amendment. He's like, oh my God, you learned too much from me. He said, but I was shot with an AK-47 in Vietnam. I said, yeah, but that was a full auto one, and that was a Viet Cong guy doing it. I said, we're here in America. Law-abiding citizens aren't going to shoot you with an AK-47. Law-abiding citizens aren't. I said, why are you going to take my right away? You know, 99% of the population obeys the law, but that 1% or even less than that breaks the law, and you're going to penalize me for that? I said, well, that's crazy. He said, you're supposed to be a Republican. What's wrong with you? And he just kind of like walked away from me. I was shocked. He was my high school history teacher, and man, it hurt. It hurt. Okay, because I liked history because of him. And he's a good guy. He's an honest guy. There's no doubt about that, but he was wrong on that issue. Okay? Take a gun safety course or go shooting with someone that is knowledgeable about firearms. It is so much fun to go out to the gun club out here and shoot around at Clay's. Okay? It's fun to go down to Cambridge with me and just have a blast on the Cambridge Police Range.
Oh,
have
yeah.
a good time with it. It's so much fun to take kids out shooting and you know, teach them gun safety and teach them proper ways to handle the weapon and how to take it apart and clean it. Kids need to know this stuff. Okay, I got my first firearm when I was 12. It was a Ruger 1022, and I got a Remington 58 Sportsman, 12-gauge shotgun. Kept them on a gun rack in my room. Okay, my gosh, if we did that today, we can't let kids have guns in their room. They'll go shoot up the school. No, they won't. Not if they're good kids that have been brought up the right way. I know your kids are brought up the right way. You know,
I've had guns in my room since I was 10 or 12.
Oh, all right. I got a shotgun shoulder blade when I was 12, which is probably one of the most dangerous things anybody could have ever given me, because I really didn't know how to use it. I kind of like watched my uncle do it one time. I was putting double loads of powder in the thing. I was like, this is crazy. I'm lucky I'm alive.
I'll send you the email, but the one that shot up the theater in Denver, the kids that shot up Columbine, time and time and time and time and time again, when you hear of these instances, they're coming from children who were put on antidepressants and from adults who were put on antidepressants. It's not the guns, it's the drugs that they're putting them on. It's a fast and furious domestic.
And the kids at the Columbine shooting, their parents had to know what was going on because it was everywhere in the family's garage, all the stuff that they had. They had videos up everywhere. The sheriff's office had been alerted to it. The guy that shot Gabby Giffords in Arizona, the police knew that this guy was a nut. Okay? And because of Gabby Giffords getting shot, thank God she lived. Okay, but the judge was killed, and a couple other people were killed. There was one police officer down there, like a chief of police, who just went nuts about it. We shouldn't let anybody have guns. This is, you know, and other people were like, we're here in the desert Southwest. Everybody has a gun. Everybody's responsible. One lone nut, who everybody knew was a lone nut, should not have had a gun. Why did it get that far? The same way with those kids in Columbine. The same way with this guy that shot up the Colorado movie theater. I mean, there's so many people that know that these guys are unstable, and why doesn't anybody do anything about it? The knee-jerk reaction after the fact is we need to ban guns. That'll solve it. No, it won't. It won't. When I say hold the media accountable, the Star Democrat, this is a while back. I'm lucky I didn't get arrested on this one. The Star Democrat put an anti-gun editorial in there. There was a shooting up in Massachusetts where some guy took a shotgun and an AK-47 into his workplace and shot the place up. And the Star Democrat ran an editorial saying we need to ban AK-47s and shotguns or something to that effect. So I wrote a letter to the editor, sent it in. I think Denise Raleigh was the editor then. A week went by, they didn't get it. So I called there. I said, did you get my letter? Yeah, we got it. I said, okay, so you can print it? Like, no, probably not. I said, well, then can you tell me what gun law is going to stop me from coming over to the Star Democrat with an AK-47 and shooting the place up? And there's a long pause. She goes, well, you're not going to do it, are you? It's the same thing my wife said. I said, of course I'm not going to do it. And they said, Mr. Biddle, please don't ever come over to the Star Democrat again. I'm going to pay pay my bills. So you can mail it in. I'm like, okay. Poor Denise Riley. I saw her a little bit later, like apologize for saying that, but I was just so daggone mad about that. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, once again, piece of paper alone. It's not bulletproof, folks. It's not gonna. I mean, it only gonna stop an honest person. That's all I can say on that. Okay. The big thing is be a responsible gun owner. Like when you go to hunter safety course, they tell you to be a responsible hunter. Don't put your deer on your hood and drive it home from the Bambi. Oh my God, somebody shot Bambi. Cover the thing up. You don't want to look like some nut job coming home from hunting. The same thing with gun rights. You don't want to abuse that. You don't want to act like a nut when you're. Don't make videos of yourself shooting, blowing stuff up and everything. I know the Sons of Gun show is cool on TV, okay, but I mean, and I like it. It's fun. But if when anti-gun people see that, they're like, those people are nuts. Why do they have guns? But they're trained experts. They know how to do it. Okay, I'm a trained expert. I know how to do that stuff. But I certainly wouldn't give a machine gun to my son and say, "Yeah, son, go out in the backyard and have fun, play around." I mean, that's just dumb. That's an accident waiting to happen. Now, when my son and I go out shooting, he's very safe. Okay, eyes, ears, make sure every range is clear. Yeah, you've been with us when
Absolutely.
It's just you have to do that because I can't imagine it would kill me if somebody that I went shooting with got hurt because of a stupid accident or something that negligence on my part. So I'm very strict on that. I ran ranges in the military for over 24 years and never had an issue. Just because you have to be safe. It's the best thing you can do is take a kid out and put a watermelon out there and shoot it with a shotgun and blow it all to pieces and say, you know what, that could be someone's head. And when they see it, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm like, yep, see why you have to respect this? It's just like a drill or a bandsaw. It's a tool that can hurt you if you don't use it correctly. Okay? And a lot of people just don't know how to use guns. They want to buy a gun and then they put it away and they've never shot the thing. They've got a box of bullets that they've never shot and a gun, and if somebody breaks in their house at 3 in the morning, they're fumbling to try to get the thing loaded, and they end up shooting themselves in the foot or something.
They'll come back up.
You don't want to do that. All right, now you're going to have some copies of the PowerPoints or links that we can get to people possibly. Okay.
Yep.
I'm going to go through these really quick, because this is the last slide. All right, this website right here, waronguns.com, David Kozria. He is the guy that blew Fast and Furious wide open. He's the guy that has the whistleblowers. He's done yeoman work on reporting on this. Okay, he is why the investigation is where it is today. Amazing. I'm a big podcast guy. Okay, you know that when I'm at the lacrosse practice, I'm sitting there with my right-wing podcast on. Armed American Radio. It's a 3-hour show on Sunday nights. Amazing stuff. Okay, it's all on iTunes. It's all free. Gun Owners of America, Larry Pratt, they consider themselves to be the no compromise gun rights group in the United States. Okay, they do not play around with gun rights. Okay, another one, Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership. If you want to see some very good pro-gun propaganda from the Jewish perspective, because they had guns taken away from them, and look what happened in Germany and in Eastern Europe. Okay, enough said on that one. NRA ILA, the Institute for Legislative Action, great website, very active in lobbying on Capitol Hill for gun rights issues. Some people have some issues with the NRA, that they compromise too much. The Gun Owners of America would say that they are the no compromise group. The NRA has about, depending on how you count it, somewhere between 5 million members. They actually have gun safety courses over in Virginia where you can go to their headquarters and become a firearms instructor basically by taking NRA courses. Okay. All right. Anti-gun side. The Brady campaign. They had to change their name. They used to be called Handgun Control Incorporated. Wow, that's a pretty extreme name, isn't it? Okay, Handgun Control Inc. So they changed their name to Brady Campaign, obviously for James Brady. Very anti-gun group. Mayors Against Illegal Guns. Nanny Bloomberg up in New York City. If he'll ban a 32-ounce soda, I guarantee you he's going to take your gun away. Okay, where's it going to stop? Mayors Against Illegal Guns. He has sent people to gun shows in the Southwest to try to pull gotcha stings on people trying to sell guns illegally at gun shows. Okay, the Million Mile March. That's also a Brady campaign issue. The Southern Poverty Law Center. They call themselves a human rights organization, but they are definitely anti-gun. Most mainstream media outlets Where's that little booklet? Bible. There are all kinds of quotes in there from publishers of papers saying that individuals have no reason to have a gun. You can find conservative press, you can find liberal press, but most of your mainstream media, they've done polls on the leanings of most reporters, and they tend to be 75 to 85% liberal. So obviously, that's going to kind of carry over into their reporting and their view of the world. Now, overall, this is a great website here. GeorgiaPacking.org, obviously it's a Georgia pro-gun website, but they have a laundry list of anti-gun groups that go against the Second Amendment. Okay, I hope that's my last slide. There's a great thing there. The Second Amendment. Washington didn't use his right to free speech to defeat the British. He shot them. Good for him. So, any questions for me? I went way long, and I'm sorry about that, but it's fun to talk about this.
Well,
I know it's all over the place. Yes, ma'am.
I'm just curious, how is it going to work out if the UN gets involved in stuff?
The UN Small Arms Treaty. Well, that was really hot this summer. It all depends on if, well, President Obama can sign it, and technically that doesn't make it official law. The Senate has to approve it, and hopefully there wouldn't be enough votes in the Senate to make it to ratify that treaty. Yes, sir.
I heard murmurs of an effort to not consider any treaties during this lame duck session period.
Good. That's a good thing.
That's
it's a great thing.
That's a great thing.
Don't count
I agree. I agree. I agree. But that is a scary. Luckily, the NRA and gun rights groups have gone in there and testified. NGOs, non-governmental organizations, have testified against this UN Small Arms Treaty because what it's effectively doing is it would ban what they consider assault rifles or weapons of war. Which there are a lot of surplus guns that come into the United States that are collectible. Mosin Nagant rifles, AK-47s, civilian versions. There's all sorts of guns that come in here. Ammunition. If you shut down the ammunition coming from other countries to the United States, if you starve the guns, you've effectively had what they call, quote, a chilling effect on gun rights. Okay, there's chilling effects to free speech where if you make it so bad that you don't want to say anything, that's a chilling effect. It makes you stop saying something or stop exercising your gun rights. If you dry up the ammunition, we're done. Now, I know Secretary of State Clinton banned the importation of 50,000 M1 Garands coming back into the United States that would probably have been sold by the civilian marksmanship program. That's just a shame because that's our history. We sent those guns to other countries to help them out. They were paid for with U.S. taxes. Whether they were lead leases is beside the point. They should come back to the United States, and we should have the ability to buy those.
We should have the ability to shoot them too.
Yeah, the ability to shoot them. Exactly. Okay, so yeah, that's a great question. That's something you have to be vigilant on and hold your senators accountable. Your senators, I called them this summer and was yelling at them, and they're like, "Oh, I haven't heard anything about this." I'm like, I'm sure you haven't. You don't want to hear anything about it." Yes, sir.
Do you have a personal relationship with Dick Bernstein yet?
Yes, sir. I know
Okay,
him.
good.
I know him. I've actually worked in his plant.
Okay.
So, the assault weapons ban would be devastating. I'm sure he would have a lobbyist that would try to fight that. Okay. Yes, sir. I know him very well.
Very well.
Yep.
He's got good guns.
Yes, I own.
Better than M1s.
I own 2 of them. They are very. And here's the thing about his rifles: a regular AR-15, the barrel life's about 5,000 rounds. His is 5 times that. Now you've heard how much I shoot, so I can burn out an AR-15 rifle in maybe 2-3 months. The barrel. With his, I can shoot it a long time. So, yeah. Any other questions? I am by no means an expert on this. I'm just a guy who likes guns and passionate about the issue. If you think I said something wrong today, or if I've offended you, I'm sorry. But it's just something that we can't give up. If we give this up, or we allow it to be taken from us, we have no way to fight back. No way to fight back. And most people just think, well, they won't come after my 12-gauge shotgun. Really? Okay.
One more thing.
Yes.
Do you think the Fast and Furious was started by the administration for the purpose of intimidating everybody into having to get rid of the guns?
Demonize the
Like
Second
that was the
Amendment?
main thing. I think
There are people
The
out.
only reason anybody can come up with it, they actually went through all this.
There is a lot of, going back a few years ago, the government tried to say that 90% of all the guns that were found in Mexico were originated from the U.S. That was completely debunked and found out that it was wrong. The United States actually gives the Mexican government a lot of weapons anyway for their law enforcement. Some of those law enforcement guns end up in the hands of the bad guys, and they didn't really want to do a serial number search because they were kind of afraid of what serial numbers would pop up where on those guns.
They didn't have any tracers on them.
Well, the Bush program, they had like a tracker in there, but
Yeah,
the batteries
they did,
died
but
on
they
them and
didn't
they couldn't
work
find them. That was stupid. I mean, the whole issue is dumb to send a gun and try to track it. I mean, it's just not going to work. What did Donald Rumsfeld say? People are fungible, so are guns. Guns go all over the place. Okay, it's very hard to keep track of. And you can take a gun apart into lots of parts, and ship it anywhere you want in parts, and then put it back together someplace. I mean, the AK-47 is designed to be put together by peasants on the steppes of Russia and taken apart. I mean, they're manufactured in huts in the Khyber Pass right now. So to take one from the United States, fully functional gun, and send it down to Mexico, they found guns in the desert buried that can be dug up and used. You can pick one up with mud all over it and shoot it. They found one that was 20 years old that was been buried somewhere and picked it up and still had bullets in it in Africa, and they shot the thing. And it worked.
Great gun.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay. Any other questions? There got to be some more questions. Yes, sir.
Have you talked to Dan Bongino?
I have not talked to him, but I'm sure I'm everything that I've read about him, Secret Service agent. I'm sure he's well on our side in the second.
Well, the point is that he's running against Cardin. And Cardin he just rubber stamps like Mikulski everything this bunch of idiots try to force down our throats. So we have to fight to get him elected.
I agree. I agree. And we have to turn out the vote. That's the thing.
So
I tell my government class. I said, look at our district here on the Eastern Shore. It goes all the way from Ocean City all the way up around into Baltimore County. It goes across the Bay Bridge into Anne Arundel County to find 750,000 people to have a congressional district. And if you look at the Western Shore, you have to go all the way to Frederick to get another congressional district, and then all the other districts are right there in the Baltimore-Washington corridor where all the population is. That's who elects people in the state. I said, you will see 20 counties vote for Romney, and then 6 vote for Obama, and he'll win the state. Because that's where the population is. It's just, we can't grow people in cornfields here to vote. That's the problem. So, I think there's going to be I think the polls are actually off this year. I think that they are going to be, there are so many people that have not been counted that are going to go out and pull the lever this year. It's just my personal opinion, but I think that's what's going to happen. I mean, you're going to have to drag your Aunt Sue and your Uncle Joe, or get them in a wheelchair, and drag them to the polls and vote early. I know the early voting here in Talbot County. There was a post on the Talbot GOP thing today. It said, when does early voting start? And I wrote, not soon enough. Somebody said, yeah, but they have early voting in these states, and they're going to have another debate. What if you go vote and then there's debate? I was like, are you kidding me? Really? What's going to happen in a debate that's going to cause you to change your vote? Like I said, the undecided voter last night, I'm like, come on, really? You're undecided? How can you be undecided? It's unreal. It's unreal. Now, if anybody would like to go shooting with me, I'm sure I'll go shooting this weekend. If you'd like to tag along and have some fun, I absolutely love it. It's one of the best things. I'm a teacher, so in the summertime, I have nothing else to do. So on Wednesday nights, Wednesday afternoons, we go to the Talbot Rod and Gun to shoot skeet. After I've jumped out of the pool and we'll go over in my bathing suit dripping wet, we shoot some skeet and go back and jump back into the pool. You see me out there. On Thursday nights, we go down to the Cambridge Gun Club, and on the police range, we shoot down there. And then I usually show up by 8 o'clock to pick up Nate from lacrosse practice with all, I've got black all over my hands from shooting. Okay. And then on the weekends, we go shooting again. It's just fun. I go through so much ammunition in the summer. I have to. In the wintertime, I just sit there and reload everything to keep up for the summer. And I'm not that atypical of a shooter person. There are a lot of people I know that are gun nuts like me that do the same kind of shooting. And we're big hunters. And once again, we respect we respect nature, we're good conservationists, and the same way you have to be a good gun owner and very respectful of people who are shooting around you, and to make sure that you're safe and they're safe and watch out for them. I mean, it's just something you have to do. Because like I said, with the responsibility of having these rights, and with the freedom of having these rights comes the responsibility of keeping them. And it only takes a few bad apples to ruin it for everybody. So we've got to be very cognizant that we have to keep our act clean and do the right thing. And it's amazing that we live in this country. I don't know. I read an article in the Drudge Report the other day that said in England now you have to be at least 14 years of age to buy a hunting magazine. Because the PETA people over there don't want kids to see shot animals or something stupid. You know, I mean, unbelievable. You know, they ban guns over there, and then knife crime goes up. So if they ban knives, baseball bat crime is going to go up. So if they ban baseball bats, I don't know what they're going to do next. You know, it's crazy.
Well, thank you very much, Glenn.
Yeah,
I sure. No, that's all right. Well,